The morning started like any other morning, but by noon, everything Eli loved was gone. He was at school when the sirens started screaming. The teachers told everyone to get under their desks, but the windows exploded inward before anyone could move. Eli remembered the flash of light, brighter than 1,000 suns. He remembered the heat that felt like standing too close to a campfire. Then everything went dark. When he woke up, the school was half collapsed. Dust filled the air so thick he could barely breathe. His ears rang with a high-pitched whine that wouldn't stop. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead, warm and sticky. "Mom," he called out, even though he knew she wasn't there. She worked at the hospital across town. "Dad?" Nobody answered. Eli crawled through broken glass and twisted metal. The hallway looked like a giant had stepped on it. Pictures hung crooked on cracked walls. A backpack sat abandoned in the middle of the floor, its contents spilled everywhere. Outside was worse. Much worse. Buildings that used to reach toward the sky now lay in piles of rubble. Cars were flipped upside down, their windows shattered. The air smelled like smoke and something else. Something wrong that made his stomach hurt. "Hello?" Eli shouted. His voice sounded small and scared. "Is anyone there?" The silence was the loudest thing he'd ever heard. He walked through streets he'd known his whole life, but nothing looked familiar anymore. The bakery where Dad bought Sunday donuts was just a pile of bricks. The park where Mom pushed him on swings was covered in ash. Everything was gray and broken and dead. Eli was 14 years old, and suddenly he was completely alone. 3 days of searching taught Eli a terrible truth. Nobody was coming to save him. He'd called out until his throat was raw. He'd dug through rubble until his hands bled. He'd waited at the town center where emergency responders were supposed to meet. But the town center was just another crater in the ground, and no helicopters came, no sirens wailed in the distance. On the third night, rain started falling. Not normal rain, but thick drops that stung his skin and tasted like metal. Eli huddled under a collapsed roof, shivering and scared. "I need shelter," he whispered to himself. "Real shelter." The next morning, he started looking at the ruins differently. Not as his destroyed home, but as materials. That broken door could be a wall. Those metal sheets could be a roof. The shattered furniture could become a bed. He found a spot at the edge of town where the forest began. A small clearing with 3 walls still standing from what used to be a garage. It wasn't much, but it was something. Eli dragged wooden planks across the rubble. They were heavy, and splinters dug into his palms. His arms ached, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Stopping meant thinking about Mom and Dad, and thinking about them made his chest feel like it was breaking. "One wall at a time," he told himself. "Just focus on one wall." He worked as the sun moved across the gray sky. He stacked bricks. He tied boards together with rope he'd found. His hands shook from hunger and exhaustion. But slowly, his shelter began to take shape. By sunset, he had 4 walls and part of a roof. It wasn't home, but it was something. Darkness came faster in the ruins, like the sun couldn't wait to leave this broken place. Eli sat inside his new shelter, listening to the wind whistle through the gaps in the walls. He'd found a can of beans in a destroyed grocery store and ate them cold, the metal spoons scraping against the tin. They tasted like nothing, but his empty stomach didn't care. The forest beyond his shelter looked different at night. The trees seemed taller, darker, like they were leaning in to watch him. Eli pulled his jacket tighter and tried not to be scared. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're safe here." But he didn't feel safe. He felt small and alone and terrified. At midnight, he knew because his watch somehow still worked. He heard it. 3 knocks, deliberate, purposeful, coming from the tree line. Knock, knock, knock. Eli's heart jumped into his throat. He scrambled to his feet, hope flooding through him like warm water. "Hello?" he called out, running to the edge of his shelter. "I'm here. I'm right here." The knocking stopped. The forest was silent. "Please," Eli shouted louder. "If you're out there, I need help. My name is Eli, and I'm alone." He waited, breath held, listening so hard his ears hurt. But no one answered. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. Maybe they couldn't hear him. Maybe they were hurt and needed help themselves. Eli grabbed a flashlight he'd salvaged and stepped toward the trees. The beam of light barely penetrated the darkness. Shadows danced between the trunks. "Hello?" he called again, softer now. Still nothing. Eli searched for 10 minutes before giving up. The knocking came again, the next night, at exactly midnight. 3 times. Always 3 times. Eli was ready this time. He'd positioned himself near the door with his flashlight and a metal pipe for protection. The moment he heard the first knock, he burst outside. "I hear you!" he yelled into the darkness. The forest swallowed his words. No movement, no response. Just trees and shadows and silence. This time, Eli ventured deeper into the woods. His flashlight beam bounced off tree trunks covered in ash. His footsteps crunched on dead leaves. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to turn back, but he pushed forward. "I know you're here," he said, trying to sound brave. "I'm not afraid." That was a lie. He was terrified. He searched until his flashlight battery started to die, then trudged back to his shelter, feeling confused and frustrated. Who knocked but never revealed themselves? What kind of survivor played games? The third night, the knocking came again. Knock, knock, knock. Same time, same 3 beats. Eli didn't run outside this time. Instead, he sat in his shelter and stared at the dark tree line, thinking. Survivors wouldn't knock and hide. They'd want help, want contact, want to know they weren't alone. So what was out there? "Maybe it's an animal," he said to the empty air. "A woodpecker or something." But animals didn't knock in patterns, and they definitely didn't knock at exactly midnight every single night. A cold feeling settled in Eli's stomach. The knocking wasn't a call for help. It was something else entirely. Days blurred together as Eli fell into a routine that kept him from thinking too much about everything he'd lost. Wake up with the sun, search the ruins for supplies, work on the shelter, eat whatever canned food he could find, wait for midnight, hear the knocking, try to sleep, repeat. His shelter improved bit by bit. He found a mattress that wasn't too damaged and dragged it inside. He made a small fireplace from stones to cook food and stay warm. He even hung curtains made from old blankets to keep out the cold wind. Not bad, Eli told himself, surveying his work. Mom would be proud. The thought made his throat tight, so he pushed it away and kept working. He discovered the library ruins held treasures. Books survived better than most things. He collected them, stacking them carefully in a corner. Reading gave him something to do between sunset and midnight, when the waiting felt unbearable. But no matter how busy he kept himself, the knocking always found him. Every night at midnight. 3 knocks. Never more, never less. Eli started marking the days on his wall with charcoal. 1 line for each day. 1 circle for each night the knocking came. After 2 weeks, the wall was covered in marks. 14 days, he counted. 14 nights of knocking. "What do you want?" The forest didn't answer. It never did. Sometimes Eli thought about leaving, walking away from this place and finding somewhere else to survive. But where would he go? The whole world seemed broken. At least here he had shelter, supplies, and a routine. Even if that routine included a mysterious visitor who refused to show themselves. Eli found the journal in the ruins of someone's house, buried under a collapsed bookshelf. The cover was water damaged, but most of the pages inside were blank. He took it back to his shelter and started writing. Day 18. The knocking came again last night. I've stopped trying to find who's doing it. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe the loneliness is making me hear things. Writing felt good. It made the thoughts in his head seem less loud and scary when he put them on paper. I miss Mom's pancakes. I miss Dad's terrible jokes. I miss my little sister asking a million questions about everything. I even miss school, which is crazy because I always complained about homework. His hand shook as he wrote. Tears dropped onto the page, making the ink blur. I wonder if they're really gone. Maybe they're alive somewhere, looking for me. Maybe I should have searched longer, harder. Maybe I gave up too soon. The guilt was heavy, like carrying stones on his shoulders. But deep down, Eli knew the truth. He'd seen the hospital where Mom worked. Nothing but a smoking crater. He'd found Dad's office building, collapsed completely. He'd searched everywhere a 7-year-old girl might hide. If they survived, they would have found him by now. I have to accept it, he wrote. I'm alone. This is my life now. Me, this shelter, and the thing that knocks. He closed the journal and stared at the ceiling, watching shadows dance in the firelight. That night, when the knocking came, Eli did something different. He knocked back. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. The forest went completely silent, like it was holding its breath. Then, after a long moment, 3 knocks answered him. Eli couldn't stop thinking about the response to his knocking. It meant something was really out there, something that could hear him, something that understood. The next day he explored the ruins more carefully, looking for clues about what happened. He'd been so focused on surviving that he hadn't stopped to ask why everything was destroyed. In the remains of the town hall, he found burned papers scattered everywhere. Most were too damaged to read, but one caught his eye. It was a memo, dated 3 days before the catastrophe. Urgent. Evacuation protocols in effect. All residents must leave immediately. Do not approach the forest boundary. Do not. The rest was burned away. Eli's hands trembled. Evacuation? But no one told us. We didn't know. He dug through more rubble, finding pieces of a puzzle he didn't want to complete. A hazard sign. A broken yellow tape that read, "Quarantine." A gas mask with cracked lenses. This wasn't a natural disaster. Something specific happened here, something people knew about and tried to prevent. At the police station ruins, he found a bulletin board still partially standing. Pinned to it was a map of the town, with the forest area circled in red marker. Written across it in large letters, "Containment Zone. Do not enter." The forest where his shelter stood. The forest where the knocking came from every night. Eli's stomach dropped. What did they contain? That evening, as sunset painted the sky orange and purple, he stared at the tree line with new fear. The knocking wasn't random. It wasn't some survivor. It was something the town tried to keep locked away. And Eli had built his home right next to it. Eli packed his backpack 3 times that night and unpacked it 3 times. I should leave, he said to himself. This place isn't safe. Something bad is in those woods. But where would he go? He'd walked for miles in every direction during his first days alone. Every town, every city, every place was destroyed just like this one. The ruins stretched as far as he could see. Maybe the whole world is like this now, he whispered. The thought was too big, too scary to hold in his head. He pulled out the journal and started writing. What if leaving is more dangerous than staying? At least here I have shelter and supplies. At least here I know what to expect. The knocking hasn't hurt me. Whatever's out there, it just knocks and leaves. But the containment zone signs haunted him. People don't contain things that are safe. They contain things that are dangerous. Midnight approached. Eli sat on his mattress, watching the clock on his watch tick closer and closer to the moment. His heart beat faster with each passing second. At 11:59, he made a decision. When the knocking came, knock, knock, knock. Eli stood up, walked to his door, and opened it wide. I'm here, he called into the darkness. I'm not running. If you want to hurt me, come ahead. But if you need help, I'll help you. And if you have answers about what happened here, I'm listening. The forest was silent for so long that Eli thought maybe he'd been talking to nothing all along. Then, from the darkness between the trees, a voice answered him. Finally, Eli's flashlight shook in his hand as he pointed it toward where the voice came from. The beam revealed nothing but trees and shadows. Who's there? His voice cracked. Show yourself. I can't, the voice said. It sounded strange, like words spoken through water, distant and distorted. Not yet. Not until you understand. Understand what? Eli's fear was being replaced by frustration. Weeks of mysterious knocking, and now riddles? Why the town is gone. Why you survived. Why I've been trying to warn you. Eli took a step forward. Warn me about what? The ruins hold secrets, the voice said. Dangerous secrets. You've been digging in places you shouldn't dig, looking at things you shouldn't see. They know you're getting close. They? Who's they? The voice went quiet for a moment. When it spoke again, it sounded sad. The ones who caused this. The ones who destroyed everything to hide what they did. The ones who are coming back to make sure no one ever learns the truth. Eli's mind raced. You're not making sense. What truth? What did they do? Find the research facility, the voice said urgently. Beneath the old hospital. The entrance survived the destruction. Inside, you'll find answers. But you must hurry. They're coming soon. And when they arrive, they'll destroy everything again, including you. Wait! Eli shouted. Who are you? Why are you helping me? Silence answered him. Complete, total silence. The voice was gone. Eli stood in the doorway until his legs got tired, but no more words came from the forest. Eventually he went back inside, closed the door, and sat on his mattress, thinking. A research facility under the hospital. Secrets about what really happened. He should be scared. He should forget about it and focus on surviving. But Eli needed to know the truth. Morning light made the hospital ruins look less scary, but not by much. The building had collapsed in on itself, creating mountains of concrete and twisted metal. Eli stood at the edge of the destruction, remembering the last time he saw his mom. She'd kissed his forehead before school that day and said, "Love you, kiddo. Be good." He hadn't been able to say it back because his friends were watching, and he thought it was embarrassing. Now he'd give anything to say it just one more time. Focus, he told himself. Find the entrance. Get answers. He'd brought tools, a crowbar, a rope, his flashlight, and some water. The voice said the entrance survived, so it had to be somewhere accessible. He circled the ruins, looking for anything that seemed like a way down. Most of the ground floor was buried. The basement levels, if they existed, would be even deeper. Then he saw it. A metal door lying flat on the ground, partially covered by debris. It had a strange symbol painted on it. A circle with 3 triangular points. The same symbol he'd seen on some of the hazard signs. Eli cleared away the rubble. His hands got cut and dirty, but he kept working. Underneath the door was a staircase leading down into darkness. "This is crazy," he whispered. "I should go back." But his feet carried him forward, down the stairs, into the dark. His flashlight cut through the blackness, revealing concrete walls covered in dust. The air smelled stale and wrong. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. Each step echoed. At the bottom of the stairs was a hallway with doors on either side. Most were locked, but one stood slightly open. Eli pushed it wider and stepped into a room filled with computers and filing cabinets. A research facility. The voice was telling the truth. The computers were dead. No power meant no data. But the filing cabinets were still intact, stuffed with papers and folders. Eli opened the first drawer. Files labeled Project Genesis. His hands pulled out a thick folder and opened it. The first page made his blood run cold. Biological Enhancement Program. Classified. Authorized personnel only. He flipped through pages of scientific jargon he barely understood. Words jumped out at him. Genetic modification. Human trials. Containment protocols. Unexpected mutations. There were photographs. Pictures of people in hospital gowns, their skin marked with strange patterns. Charts showing DNA sequences. Diagrams of human bodies with sections circled in red. Eli's stomach turned. What were they doing here? He found another folder labeled Incident Report. Day of Breach. His hands shook as he read. At 0800 hours, Subject 47 exhibited catastrophic system failure. Containment breach in Lab 3. Emergency protocols enacted. Subject's cellular structure became unstable, releasing energy currency comparable to a small nuclear device. Evacuation order given at 0815. By 0830, it was too late. The explosion destroyed 67% of the facility and all above-ground structures within a 2-mile radius. Eli had to read it twice, then 3 times. Subject 47. A person. They were experimenting on people. and one of them exploded. That's what destroyed the town. Not a bomb, not a war, not a natural disaster. His own government did this. "Mom," he whispered. "She worked here. Did she know? Was she part of this?" He found another document, a personnel list. His eyes scanned down the names and stopped at one that made his heart break. Dr. Sarah Martinez, lead geneticist. His mom. Eli couldn't breathe. The paper shook in his hands as he stared at his mother's name. Dr. Sarah Martinez, lead geneticist. Project Genesis. "No," he said to the empty room. "No, she wouldn't. She's a nurse. She helps people." But the evidence was right in front of him. His mom wasn't a nurse. She was a scientist. She lied to him, to Dad, to everyone about what she really did. He kept reading, desperate to find something that proved she was good, that she didn't know how dangerous it was, that she tried to stop it. In another folder, he found emails printed out. One was from his mom. "I'm expressing serious concerns about rushing Subject 47 to Phase 3 trials. The cellular instability hasn't been resolved. We need more time to ensure safety protocols. Moving forward could result in catastrophic failure." Dated 3 months before the disaster. Someone responded, "Your concerns are noted but overruled. We're behind schedule. Proceed with Phase 3 immediately. That's an order." Eli's chest loosened a little. Mom tried to stop them. She knew it was dangerous, and she spoke up. He found more emails, each one showing his mom fighting against the project, warning about risks, begging for more safety measures. The last one, sent the day before the catastrophe, made tears run down his face. "If we continue tomorrow as planned, people will die. I can't be part of this anymore. I'm reporting this to outside authorities. This program needs to be shut down immediately." She tried to save everyone. She tried to stop it. But she ran out of time. Eli clutched the papers to his chest and cried. He cried for his mom who died trying to do the right thing. He cried for all the people who died because others wouldn't listen to her warnings. And he cried because now he understood why the voice was helping him. "You found it." The voice spoke from the doorway, making Eli jump. He spun around, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Standing in the doorway was a person, or something that used to be a person. Their skin glowed faintly with a blue light, like they were made of stars. They wore torn hospital clothes with a number written on the pocket. 48. "Subject 48, Eli whispered. "Just call me Sam," they said, stepping into the room. Up close, Eli could see their features were human, young, maybe 18. But their eyes were completely silver, reflecting light like a mirror. I was in the room next to 47 when the explosion happened. The radiation changed me, but it didn't kill me like it did everyone else. "You've been in the forest this whole time?" Sam nodded. "The containment zone. They locked me in before the disaster, said I was too unstable to be around people. Then everything exploded, and I was trapped in the chaos like everyone else. But I survived when everyone else died. Why didn't you show yourself sooner? Would you have believed me?" Sam asked sadly. "A glowing person telling you your government experimented on humans? You needed to find the truth yourself." Eli looked at the papers scattered around him. "My mom. Did she know about you?" Sam's expression softened. "Dr. Martinez was kind to me. She snuck me extra food. She talked to me like I was a person, not an experiment. When she found out what they planned to do to 47, she tried everything to stop it." "She tried to save everyone," Eli said quietly. "She saved me," Sam replied. "The day before the disaster, she gave me this." They pulled out a keycard. "She told me if anything went wrong, I should use it to access the emergency exit and run. I was heading there when 47 exploded. The blast threw me into the forest. When I woke up, everything was gone." Eli wiped his eyes. "Why knock every night?" "To warn you. You weren't supposed to build your shelter there. That's the contaminated zone. And I've been sensing them. Vehicles, people. The ones who caused this are coming back." Sam led Eli deeper into the underground facility, their glowing skin providing light in the dark hallways. They moved with purpose, like they'd memorized every turn. "They'll want to destroy all the evidence," Sam explained. These documents prove what really happened. If the world finds out the government killed an entire town experimenting on people, there would be consequences. But everyone's already dead, Eli said. Who would they tell? You're alive. I'm alive. We're witnesses. We're proof. Sam stopped at a locked door and used Dr. Martinez's keycard. The door clicked open. They can't let us exist. Inside was an armory. Weapons, hazmat suits, emergency supplies, everything needed for a containment response team. How long do we have? Eli asked. A day, maybe 2. I've seen their surveillance drones flying patterns. They're coming to make sure nothing survived that could expose them. Eli's mind raced. We need to leave, get far away from here. We can't. Sam grabbed a backpack and started filling it with supplies. They'll hunt us down. We have to expose what happened first. Get the evidence to people who can do something about it. What people? Everyone's dead. Sam turned to face him, silver eyes intense. Not everyone. Other towns exist beyond the destruction radius, cities that are far enough away they survived whatever happened. We need to reach them with proof. Eli thought about the journal entries, the photographs, the emails from his mom. All that evidence sitting in filing cabinets underground. We'll need to carry the most important files, he said. We can't take everything. We take what we can, and we document the rest. Sam pulled out an old camera from a supply locker. Photos of everything. Your testimony and mine. It's not perfect, but it's something. They spent the next hour sorting through files, photographing documents, and packing the evidence that painted the clearest picture of what Project Genesis really was. As they worked, Eli felt something growing inside him. Not just fear, but determination. His mom died trying to stop this. Now he would finish what she started. They worked through the night, moving supplies from the underground facility to Eli's shelter. Sam insisted on being careful. No lights that might attract attention. No noise that might carry. Tell me about before, Eli said as they carried boxes. Before you became this. He gestured at Sam's glowing skin. Sam was quiet for a moment. I was sick. Really sick. Cancer. My parents couldn't afford treatment, and the government offered them money to enroll me in a medical trial. They said it was gene therapy, that it would cure me. They laughed bitterly. I guess it did. Can't have cancer if your entire DNA is rewritten. Do you hate them? Your parents? I did at first, but they thought they were saving my life. They didn't know it was all a lie. Sam set down a box. The people I hate are the ones who knew exactly what they were doing and did it anyway. Eli understood that feeling. He was angry, too. At the scientists who ignored his mom's warnings. At the officials who prioritized schedules over safety. At everyone who let this happen. Back at the shelter, they organized everything. Documents in waterproof bags. Camera with extra film. Food and water for a long journey. A map Sam had found showing towns beyond the destruction zone. The nearest unaffected city is 60 miles north, Sam said, pointing. Through the forest and over the mountains. 3, maybe 4 days of walking if we're lucky. And if we're not lucky? The containment team finds us first. Sam's expression was grim. They'll have weapons, training, and orders to eliminate any remaining subjects. We're not just whistleblowers to them. I'm evidence that needs to be destroyed. Eli looked at his shelter. The walls he'd built, the home he'd made from ruins. Leaving felt like abandoning his parents all over again. Hey, Sam said gently. Your mom would want you to survive. She'd want the truth to come out. This is how you honor her memory. Eli nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. We leave tomorrow at dawn. Eli sat outside his shelter, watching the sun disappear behind the destroyed town. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. It was beautiful, and that felt wrong somehow. How could the sky be beautiful when everything else was so broken? Sam sat beside him, their glow dim in the fading light. They didn't talk, just watched the day end together. I never thanked you, Eli finally said. For the knocking, for trying to warn me, for telling me the truth. You don't have to thank me. Your mom saved my life. Helping you is how I repay that debt. She would have liked that. She always helped people. Eli pulled out his journal. I've been writing everything down. My thoughts, my memories, what happened each day. I want to remember it all, even the bad parts. That's good, Sam said. Witnesses need to remember. Memory is how we honor the dead. Eli turned to a fresh page and started writing. Day 42. Tomorrow, Sam and I leave for the northern city. I'm scared. I'm angry. But mostly I'm determined. Mom died trying to stop Project Genesis. Dad and Mia died because people didn't listen to her. I won't let their deaths be meaningless. I'm going to make sure the world knows what happened here. He closed the journal and looked at the ruins one last time. Every broken building held a memory. The school where he learned fractions. The bakery where Dad bought birthday cakes. The park where Mia learned to ride her bike. Goodbye, he whispered. I'll never forget you. Any of you. That night, for the first time in 42 days, there was no knocking at midnight. Eli didn't need warnings anymore. He was ready to face whatever came next. Dawn broke cold and gray as Eli and Sam set out from the shelter. Each carried a heavy backpack filled with supplies and evidence. Eli took one last look at the home he'd built, then turned toward the forest without looking back. The trees seemed less frightening with Sam beside him. They walked in silence for the first hour, following a deer trail that wound between thick trunks. Birds chirped occasionally, a sound Eli hadn't heard in weeks. Life continues, Sam said, noticing Eli's surprise. Even after disaster, nature recovers faster than we do. They crossed a stream where the water ran clear and cold. Eli filled their bottles, grateful for fresh water after weeks of drinking from questionable sources. Tell me about the city we're heading to, Eli said. What's it called? Riverdale. It's small, maybe 20,000 people. But it has a newspaper, a radio station, and politicians who aren't connected to Project Genesis. Sam consulted the map. If we can get our evidence to the right people there, they can spread the truth before anyone can stop it. And if they don't believe us? Sam's silver eyes met his. Then we keep trying. We go to the next city, and the one after that. We don't stop until someone listens. By midday, they reached the edge of the contamination zone. Sam paused at an invisible boundary that only they could sense. Once we cross this line, I'll stop glowing, they explained. The radiation here is what powers my condition. Beyond it, I'll look normal again. Is that what you want? To look normal? Sam smiled sadly. I want to be seen as human again, not as a freak or an experiment or a weapon. If looking normal helps people hear our story instead of fearing us, then yes, that's what I want. They crossed the boundary together, and slowly, Sam's glow faded until they looked like any other teenager. The journey had truly begun. On the second day, they found a cabin. It stood in a clearing, untouched by the disaster that had destroyed Eli's town. Smoke rose from its chimney. Eli's heart leaped. People! Wait! Sam grabbed his arm. We need to be careful. We don't know if they're friendly. But Eli was already running forward, desperate after weeks of loneliness. He pounded on the cabin door. Hello? Please, we need help. The door opened a crack. An old woman peered out holding a rifle. Who are you? How'd you get through the quarantine? Quarantine? Eli asked. The whole area's been sealed off for weeks. Government says there was a chemical spill. Nobody in, nobody out. Her eyes narrowed. So I'll ask again. How'd you get here? Sam stepped forward, hands raised to show they meant no harm. We came from inside the quarantine zone, from the town that was destroyed. We have evidence about what really happened, and we need to get it to Riverdale. The woman's expression shifted from suspicion to shock. Inside? You survived inside? She lowered the rifle and opened the door wider. Get in here, both of you, quickly. The cabin was warm and smelled like soup. Eli's stomach growled loudly. When's the last time you ate real food? The woman asked, already ladling soup into bowls. Weeks, Eli admitted. I've been living on canned beans and rainwater. As they ate, They told her everything. The explosion, the underground facility, Project Genesis, the evidence they carried. The woman listened without interrupting, her face growing graver with each revelation. "They've been lying on the news," she finally said, telling everyone it was an accident at a chemical plant, saying the area's too dangerous to enter for years. "It's a cover-up," Sam said. "They're buying time to destroy evidence." The woman stood abruptly. "Then you need to move faster. I'll help you." The woman's name was Martha, and she'd lived in these woods for 40 years. She knew every trail, every shortcut, every way to avoid the main roads where government checkpoints blocked travelers. "They've set up a perimeter," she explained, spreading a more detailed map across her table. "Roadblocks here, here, and here, claiming they're preventing contamination spread. Really, they're making sure no one gets out with the truth." "How do we get past them?" Eli asked. Martha's finger traced a winding path through the mountains. "The old mining trails. Nobody uses them anymore, but they'll get you to Riverdale without hitting any checkpoints. It adds 2 days to your journey, but it's safer than trying to bluff your way through armed guards." She packed them supplies, real food, warm blankets, waterproof matches, things Eli had been surviving without for so long he'd forgotten they existed. "Why are you helping us?" Sam asked. "You don't know us." Martha was quiet for a moment, staring at a photograph on the mantel. It showed a young man in a military uniform. "My son," she said softly. "He was a whistleblower, tried to expose corruption in his unit. They called him a liar, destroyed his reputation, and discharged him dishonorably. He killed himself 3 years ago because no one would believe him." She turned to face them, eyes fierce. "I won't let that happen to you. If you've got proof of what they did, I'll make sure you get somewhere safe to share it." Eli felt tears prick his eyes. "Thank you." Martha smiled, but it was sad. "Don't thank me yet. The hard part's still ahead. Those mountain trails are rough, and winter's coming early this year. You'll need to move fast." She gave them warmer clothes from her son's old things. They fit Eli almost perfectly. Sam's glowed faintly for just a moment when they pulled on a jacket, but then faded back to normal. That evening, Martha cooked them a real meal: roasted chicken, vegetables, bread. Eli ate until his stomach hurt, savoring every bite. Sam ate slowly, like they were trying to remember what normal food tasted like. "Get some real sleep tonight," Martha said, "in actual beds. Tomorrow starts the hardest part of your journey." Eli lay in a soft bed for the first time in over a month. The ceiling was solid above him, not patched together from scraps. The walls didn't whistle with wind. He should have felt safe. Instead, he felt guilty. "What's wrong?" Sam whispered from the other bed. "Everyone else is dead," Eli said quietly. "And I'm lying in a comfortable bed eating real food. It doesn't feel right. Your mom would want you to survive, to be comfortable, to eat good food." Sam turned to face him. "Don't feel guilty for being alive, Eli. Feel grateful. And use that gratitude to fuel your purpose." Eli thought about that as he drifted off to sleep. Grateful and purposeful. He could do that. Martha walked them to the trailhead at dawn, pointing out landmarks to watch for. The mining trail started as a thin path between rocks, climbing steeply upward. "Follow the red markers on the trees," she instructed. "They'll keep you on track. There's an old ranger station about halfway. Abandoned now, but the structure's sound. You can shelter there if weather turns bad." She hugged Eli tight, like a grandmother would. "Be smart, be careful, and don't give up, no matter how hard it gets." "We won't," Eli promised. The climb was brutal. Within an hour, Eli's legs burned and his lungs ached. The air got thinner as they went higher, making every breath feel insufficient. Sam moved more easily, their altered biology giving them extra stamina. "Want a rest?" Sam offered, noticing Eli struggling. "No," Eli gasped. "Need to keep moving. Every minute we waste is a minute they get closer." But his body had limits. By midday they had to stop. Eli collapsed on a flat rock, gulping water and trying to catch his breath. Sam sat beside him, looking out over the valley below. From this height, Eli could see his town in the distance. a gray smudge against the green forest. "It looks so small from here," he said. "Everything does from a distance," Sam replied. "But we know the truth. Each of those destroyed buildings was someone's home, someone's life, someone's everything." Eli pulled out his journal and started writing. Day 44. Climbing the mountain. My legs hurt. My lungs hurt. Everything hurts. But I keep thinking about Mom, about how she fought against Project Genesis, even when no one listened. If she could be that brave, so can I. A sound made them both freeze. A helicopter. Distant but getting closer. Sam pulled Eli under an overhang, hiding them from view. The helicopter passed over, flying a search pattern. "They're looking for us," Sam whispered. The hunt had begun. They moved more carefully after spotting the helicopter, staying under tree cover whenever possible. The red markers guided them higher into the mountains where the air was cold and thin. By late afternoon, they heard engines. Not helicopters this time, but vehicles on a road somewhere below them. "The trail crosses a logging road up ahead," Sam said, checking Martha's map. "We'll be exposed for about 50 yards. Eli's heart hammered. What if they're watching it? Then we move fast and quiet, wait for a clear moment, then run. They crept to the edge of the tree line. Below, a dirt road cut through the forest. 2 military-style trucks were parked about a quarter-mile away. Soldiers stood around them, smoking and talking. "Checkpoint," Sam breathed. "They're searching everyone who tries to pass." "Can we go around?" Sam studied the terrain. "Not without adding half a day to our journey. And look." They pointed at the sky where another helicopter was making lazy circles. "They've got air support. If we're out in the open too long, they'll spot us." Eli's mind raced. They couldn't go around. They couldn't go through. They couldn't stay here. "We wait until dark," he decided. "Cross when they can't see us." It was risky. The temperature would drop at night, and they'd be navigating unfamiliar terrain in darkness. But it was better than being caught. They hunkered down in the brush and waited. Hours crawled by. Eli shivered as the sun set and cold settled in. Sam sat perfectly still, watching the soldiers below. "Do you get cold?" Eli whispered. "Not like I used to. My body temperature regulates differently now. It's strange, not feeling cold the same way." "Do you miss it? Being normal?" Sam was quiet for a long moment. "Every single day. But I can't go back. I can only go forward." When full darkness came, the soldiers built a fire and sat around it. Perfect. "Their night vision will be ruined by the firelight," Sam said. "Now's our chance. Stay low and move fast." They crept to the road's edge. Eli's heart pounded so hard he thought it might explode. Sam counted down with their fingers. 3, 2, 1. They ran. 50 yards had never felt so long. Every footstep seemed impossibly loud. Every breath sounded like a scream. Eli fixed his eyes on the tree line ahead and ran faster than he'd ever run in his life. Behind them, a shout. "Hey! Movement on the road! Don't stop!" Sam grabbed Eli's arm, pulling him forward. A spotlight snapped on, its beams sweeping across the road. It caught them for just a second, long enough for the soldiers to see 2 figures running. "Halt! Stop right there!" They crashed into the forest as gunfire erupted. Bullets whined through the trees, thudding into trunks and spraying bark. Eli's legs pumped, adrenaline drowning out the pain and exhaustion. "This way!" Sam veered left, leading them deeper into the woods. Behind them, soldiers were shouting and engines roared to life. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, searching. They ran for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Finally, Sam pulled them into a hollow beneath a fallen tree, pressing a finger to their lips. Silence. Except for Eli's ragged breathing and his thundering heartbeat. Footsteps crunched through dead leaves. Close. Too close. "Search this sector," a voice commanded. They couldn't have gone far. Command wants them alive if possible, but dead is acceptable. They're contaminated witnesses, too dangerous to let escape. Contaminated witnesses. That's what they were to these people. Not kids, Not survivors, not humans, just problems to be eliminated. A soldier passed within feet of their hiding spot. Eli held his breath until his lungs screamed. The soldier paused, looked around, then moved on. They waited in the hollow until the sounds of searching faded into the distance. Only then did Sam motion that it was safe to move. "We need to get far away from here," Sam whispered. "They'll expand the search at dawn." Eli nodded, too scared to speak. They traveled through the night, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the checkpoint. It was slow, dangerous work, navigating in darkness, but stopping meant being caught, and being caught meant dying. Dawn found them exhausted, cold, and lost. The red markers had disappeared in the darkness, and neither of them knew where they were anymore. "We need shelter," Eli said through chattering teeth. "I can't feel my fingers." Sam pulled out Martha's map, trying to orient themselves by the rising sun. "The ranger station should be that direction, I think. Maybe 2 miles. It took them 3 hours to find it, stumbling through underbrush and over rocks. When the small wooden building finally appeared through the trees, Eli wanted to cry with relief. The door was locked, but Sam broke it open easily. Their enhanced strength still worked, even without the glow. Inside was dusty and old, but it was shelter. A fireplace, some old furniture, and best of all, walls and a roof. "No fire," Sam said as Eli eyed the fireplace longingly. "Smoke would give away our position." They huddled together under their blankets, sharing body heat. Eli's teeth wouldn't stop chattering. "Tell me something good," he said. "Something from before. A happy memory." Sam thought for a moment. "When I was 10, my dad took me fishing. I'd never caught anything before, but that day I hooked a huge bass. I was so excited I fell in the water trying to reel it in." They smiled at the memory. "Dad jumped in after me, and we both ended up soaking wet, but I held on to that fish the whole time. We took a picture with it before letting it go. Mom laughed so hard she cried." "That's a good memory," Eli said softly. "Your turn. Tell me something good." Eli closed his eyes, reaching back into the before times. "Last Christmas, Mia, my little sister, she made everyone these terrible handmade ornaments out of clay. They were lumpy and weird, but she was so proud. Mom and Dad hung them right in front of the tree, where everyone could see. Mia's face just lit up." His voice cracked. "I'd give anything to see her smile like that again." "I know," Sam said gently. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in memories of people they'd never see again. Finally, Sam spoke. "We're going to make it to Riverdale. We're going to tell our story. And when we do, everyone will know their names. Your mom, your dad, your sister, my parents, everyone who died. We'll make sure the world remembers them." Eli wiped his eyes. "Promise?" "I promise." They rested at the ranger station until midday, then forced themselves to keep moving. Every moment they stayed in one place was a moment for their pursuers to catch up. The terrain got rockier as they climbed higher. Eli's feet ached in his worn shoes. His hands were cut and blistered. But he kept putting one foot in front of the other, driven by determination and fear in equal measure. Late afternoon brought a new sound, dogs barking in the distance. Sam's face went pale. Tracking dogs. They must have gotten our scent from the logging road. How far behind us? Hard to say. Maybe an hour, maybe less. Sam scanned the area frantically. We need water. Running water breaks our scent trail. They scrambled down a steep slope toward the sound of a stream. Eli slipped twice, catching himself on rocks that scraped his palms raw. The barking was getting louder. They reached the stream and splashed through it, moving upstream against the current. The water was freezing, soaking through their shoes and pants. Eli's feet went numb almost immediately. "How far do we follow it?" he asked. "Until the dogs lose us." Sam kept moving, pulling Eli along when he stumbled. They stayed in the stream for over a mile. Behind them, the barking grew confused, then frustrated, then distant. The dogs had lost the trail, but the relief was short-lived. Eli's body was shutting down from cold and exhaustion. His movements became sluggish. His thoughts got fuzzy. "Eli?" Sam's voice sounded far away. "Eli, stay with me." "Just tired." His legs buckled. Sam caught him before he fell. "No sleeping, not yet. We're almost to the ridge. Once we cross it, we'll be over the worst terrain. Just a little further." "Can't." "Yes, you can. Your mom didn't raise a quitter, did she?" The mention of his mom sparked something inside Eli, a small flame of determination. He forced his legs to move, one step at a time. Sam half-carried him up the final slope to the ridge. From the top, they could see Riverdale in the distance, lights twinkling in the valley below. Salvation was in sight. The descent was somehow harder than the climb. Eli's exhausted legs shook with every step. Twice he fell, tumbling down scree slopes before Sam caught him. His clothes were torn, his hands bloody, his body beyond tired. "Almost there," Sam kept saying. "Almost there." As they got lower, the trees changed from pine to deciduous. The air got warmer and easier to breathe. And miraculously, they found a dirt road with tire tracks. "This leads to town," Sam said, checking the map. "Maybe 3 miles more." 3 miles might as well have been 300. Eli wasn't sure his legs would carry him that far, but he forced himself forward, step by painful step. They heard the vehicle before they saw it, an old pickup truck rattling down the dirt road toward them. Sam pulled Eli into the brush, but the truck had already spotted them and was slowing down. An elderly man leaned out the window. "You kids okay? You look half dead." Eli and Sam exchanged a glance. They'd avoided people since leaving Martha's cabin, but they were out of options. If they didn't get help soon, Eli wouldn't make it to town. "We need a ride to Riverdale," Sam said carefully. "It's urgent." The man looked them over, their torn clothes, exhausted faces, desperate eyes. Something in his expression softened. "Hop in the back, I'm heading that way." They climbed into the truck bed, collapsing against the side. As the vehicle started moving, Eli felt tears of relief stream down his face. "We made it," he whispered. "We actually made it." Sam squeezed his hand. "Not yet. Making it means getting the evidence to someone who can use it. But we're close. So close." The truck rattled down the mountain road as sunset painted the sky orange and purple. Eli watched the light fade, thinking about all the sunsets he'd watched from his shelter, alone and scared. He wasn't alone anymore. And he wasn't scared. Well, not as scared. He was determined. The lights of Riverdale grew brighter as they approached. Somewhere in that town was someone who would listen. Someone who would believe them. Someone who would help them expose the truth. They just had to find that person before the containment team found them. The old man dropped them at the edge of town as night fell. "Town square's straight ahead," he said, pointing down Main Street. "Whatever trouble you're in, good luck, kids." Riverdale was like stepping into a different world. Streetlights worked, cars drove by, people walked dogs and carried groceries. Normal life, continuing like nothing had happened 30 miles away. "It's strange," Eli said quietly, "seeing everyone just living. Like our world didn't end." "Their world didn't end," Sam replied. "That's why we need to tell them what happened, so they understand what's at stake." They walked down Main Street, attracting stares. They looked like refugees, dirty, exhausted, wearing torn clothes. A woman clutched her purse tighter as they passed. A man crossed the street to avoid them. "Where do we go?" Eli asked. "Who do we tell first?" Sam spotted a building with a sign. "Riverdale Gazette, local news since 1892. "There," they said. "Newspapers can spread information fast. If we can convince a reporter to publish our story, the containment team can't stop it." The newspaper office was small, just a few rooms with cluttered desks and old computers. A woman in her 50s sat at the front desk, typing on a keyboard. She looked up as they entered, her nose wrinkling slightly at their appearance. "Can I help you?" "We need to speak to a reporter," Sam said. "It's urgent. We have evidence of a government cover-up." The woman's expression went from annoyed to skeptical. "Right. Government cover-up. Let me guess. Aliens? Secret experiments? Mind control? Human experiments, Eli said, pulling the waterproof bag from his backpack. They were testing genetic modifications on sick people. One of the subjects became unstable and exploded, destroying an entire town. They're calling it a chemical accident to hide what really happened. He dumped the documents on her desk. Photographs, emails, incident reports, all of it stamped with classified. The woman's eyes went wide as she started reading. Her hands shook slightly as she picked up a photograph of Subject 47, covered in strange patterns. "Where did you get these?" she whispered. "From the underground facility," Eli said. "My mom was one of the scientists. She tried to stop the project. She died when everything exploded." The woman looked up at them, really seeing them for the first time. "You were there? Inside the quarantine zone?" "I survived," Eli said. "I've been living in the ruins for 6 weeks. Sam survived because they were—" "I was one of the test subjects," Sam interrupted. "Subject 48. They experimented on me without proper consent, changed my DNA, made me into something not quite human anymore." The woman stood abruptly. "Wait here. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone." She disappeared into a back office. Through the glass, Eli could see her on the phone, gesturing urgently. "Did we do the right thing?" he asked Sam nervously. "We're about to find out." The woman returned with a man in his 60s, gray-haired with sharp eyes behind glasses. He carried himself with authority. This was someone important. "I'm Robert Chen, editor-in-chief," he said, extending his hand. "You've brought me quite a story. The question is it true?" "Every word," Eli said, shaking his hand. Robert sat down and began reading through the documents methodically. Minutes passed in tense silence. He studied each photograph, read every email, examined every report. His expression grew darker with each page. Finally, he looked up. "If this is real, and I'm not saying I believe you yet, but if it's real, this is the biggest story of the decade, maybe the century. Government-sanctioned human experiments resulting in mass casualties? That's Pulitzer Prize material." "We don't care about prizes," Sam said. "We care about justice, about making sure everyone knows what happened and who's responsible." Robert leaned back in his chair. "I'll need to verify these documents. The government will claim they're fakes, that you're conspiracy theorists or attention seekers. I need corroboration, secondary sources, expert analysis." "We don't have time for that," Eli said urgently. "The containment team is hunting us. They've got helicopters, soldiers, tracking dogs. They'll kill us to keep this quiet." "Then we need to move fast." Robert stood decisively. "Linda, call Dr. Patterson at the university. She's a geneticist. She can analyze these documents, tell us if the science is legitimate. And call our lawyer. If we're going to war with the federal government, I want legal protection." Linda, the front desk woman, nodded and grabbed the phone. Robert turned back to Eli and Sam. "You two need to get somewhere safe. If what you're saying is true, you're witnesses they'll want to eliminate. My house. My wife will keep you hidden while we prepare the story." "How long until you can publish?" Sam asked. 24 hours, maybe less if Dr. Patterson works fast. Once it's in print and online, the story spreads. They can't contain it then." Eli felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Someone believed them. Someone with the power to help was taking action. But 24 hours was a long time when people were hunting you. Robert drove them to his house on the outskirts of town, constantly checking his mirrors for followers. His home was modest but comfortable, exactly the kind of place where someone could disappear for a while. His wife, Margaret, asked no questions. She just drew them a hot bath, found clean clothes, and made soup while they washed weeks of dirt and blood away. Eli stood under the hot water and cried. He cried for his parents, for Mia, for his destroyed home. He cried from exhaustion and relief and fear. He cried until the water ran cold and Margaret knocked gently on the door. "Soup's ready, honey. Come eat." The four of them sat around a kitchen table like a normal family. Eli couldn't remember the last time he'd eaten a meal sitting down with people. The normalcy of it felt surreal. "Tell us everything," Robert said, pulling out a recorder. "From the beginning. I need your full testimony on record." So Eli talked. He described the flash of light that destroyed his world, the weeks of survival in the ruins, building his shelter, the mysterious knocking that led him to Sam, the underground facility and the evidence they'd found, the mountain crossing and the soldiers hunting them. Robert's recorder captured every word. Margaret sat with her hand over her mouth, eyes wet with tears. "You're so brave," she said when Eli finished. "Both of you. What you've been through, what you've survived. Most adults couldn't handle it. We didn't have a choice," Eli said quietly. "You either survive or you don't. And I chose to survive." Sam added their testimony, the year of experiments, the pain of transformation, the explosion, surviving in the contaminated forest, trying to warn Eli. Robert's pen flew across his notebook, capturing details. Around midnight, Linda called. "Dr. Patterson's analyzed the documents. She says the science is legitimate. The DNA sequences, the experiment protocols, the cellular models, all of it matches real genetic research. There's no way someone could fake this level of detail without being an actual geneticist." Robert's eyes gleamed. "That's the corroboration we needed. Start writing. We publish tomorrow morning." Eli felt a surge of hope. One more day. They just had to survive one more day. Then the lights went out. The house plunged into darkness. Outside, car doors slammed. Heavy footsteps surrounded the building. "Basement," Robert hissed. "Now!" They scrambled through the dark house. Margaret led them to a door concealed behind a bookshelf. "My grandfather built this during the Cold War. It's a bunker, reinforced walls, separate entrance. They won't find it easily." Eli and Sam tumbled down the stairs as pounding started on the front door. "Robert Chen! This is federal law enforcement. We have a warrant to search the premises." Robert and Margaret stayed upstairs to stall them. Through the basement ceiling, Eli could hear muffled voices. "What warrant? Let me see the paperwork." "Sir, we don't have time for this. We're looking for 2 fugitives, a teenage boy and a young adult. We have reason to believe you're harboring them." "I'm a journalist. I don't harbor fugitives. I interview sources. There's a difference." The sound of the door being forced open. Footsteps above them. Dozens of boots thundering through the house. Sam grabbed Eli's arm. "The separate entrance Margaret mentioned. We need to find it." They felt along the walls in the darkness until Sam's hands found a latch. A small door opened to a tunnel sloping upward. "This way," Sam whispered. Behind them, they heard shouting. "Check everywhere! They're here somewhere!" The tunnel was tight and claustrophobic. Eli crawled on hands and knees, backpack scraping the ceiling. His breath came in panicked gasps. They emerged in a shed behind the house, hidden by overgrown bushes. Through gaps in the wood, Eli could see the main house lit up like a Christmas tree. Searchlights, flashlights, vehicle headlights, all focused on it. "We need to go," Sam said. "Now, while they're distracted searching inside." "What about Robert and Margaret?" "They'll be okay. They didn't know where we went. But if we're caught here, everyone's in danger. Us and them." Eli hated it, but Sam was right. They slipped out of the shed and into the night, using the darkness and bushes as cover. Behind them, the shouting continued. They'd escaped again. But Riverdale wasn't safe anymore. The containment team had found them, and they weren't giving up. "We need to get back to the Gazette," Sam said as they ran through dark streets. "The documents, the recordings, everything's there. If they get to it first, we lose all our evidence." Eli's legs were screaming after days of climbing and running, but fear pushed him forward. They cut through alleys and backyards, avoiding streetlights and main roads. The newspaper office was dark when they arrived. No soldiers, no vehicles. Either they hadn't thought to check here yet, or they were waiting in ambush. "This feels wrong," Eli whispered. "Everything about this situation is wrong," Sam replied. "But we don't have options. We need those documents." They crept to the back entrance. The door was unlocked, definitely wrong. Inside, the office was silent and dark. Too silent. Sam's enhanced senses picked up something. "Someone's here," I can hear breathing. A light clicked on. Linda stood by her desk, hands raised. Don't run. I'm alone. Where's Robert? Sam demanded. They arrested him. Obstruction of justice, harboring fugitives, possession of classified materials. They threw everything at him. Margaret, too. Linda's voice shook. But before they took him, Robert sent me the story. All of it. Your testimony, the document analysis, everything. It's ready to publish. She held up a USB drive. This is the insurance policy. If anything happens to any of us, this gets released to every news outlet in the country. AP, Reuters, the New York Times, the Washington Post, all of them. Can you publish now? Eli asked desperately. Linda shook her head. Robert's arrest spooked our owner. He's threatening to kill the story, afraid of legal consequences. But I can leak it to other journalists. It'll take longer to spread, but it'll still get out. How long? Sam asked. 48 hours, maybe more. Journalists will want to verify it independently before running with it. Eli felt despair crushing down on him. We don't have 48 hours. They'll find us and kill us long before then. Linda looked at them with fierce determination. Then we make sure you survive long enough. I know someone who can help. A former government investigator who got burned exposing corruption. He has resources, contacts, safe houses. If anyone can protect you until the story breaks, he can. She grabbed her phone and dialed. Jack, it's Linda. I need your help. It's the kind of situation you specialize in. While she talked, Eli looked at Sam. They were both exhausted, scared, running on fumes. But they'd come so far. We can do this, Sam said quietly. 2 more days. We just need to survive 2 more days. Eli thought about his mom, fighting against Project Genesis, knowing she might face consequences. She didn't give up. He wouldn't either. 2 more days, he agreed. Jack Morrison was ex-FBI, ex-military, and currently ex-patient with government corruption. He met them at a 24-hour diner on the edge of town, arriving in a beat-up sedan that had seen better decades. He was tall, maybe 50, with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. He looked at Eli and Sam like he was reading their entire life story in one glance. You two have kicked a hornet's nest, he said, sliding into the booth. Multiple federal agencies are looking for you. There's a kill order out. Officially, they'll say you're contaminated and dangerous, but we both know that's garbage. Can you help us? Eli asked. Jack studied him for a long moment. Kid, I spent 20 years exposing corrupt officials. It cost me my career, my marriage, and damn near my life. But I'm still here because I'm good at what I do. He pulled out a tablet and showed them a map. I've got 3 safe houses within driving distance. We'll rotate between them, never staying more than 12 hours in one place. I've got contacts monitoring police scanners and federal communications. We'll know if they're coming before they arrive. Why help us? Sam asked suspiciously. Because what they did to you, what they did to that town, that's exactly the kind of evil I spent my whole career fighting. And because Linda vouched for you, and I owe her. Jack's expression hardened. Plus, I really hate it when the government kills kids to cover up their mistakes. He drove them to the first safe house, a cabin in the woods about an hour outside Riverdale. It was isolated, defensible, and stocked with supplies. How long can we hide? Eli asked as Jack showed them where everything was. As long as it takes for the story to break wide enough that killing you becomes pointless. Once you're public figures, once your faces are on every news site, and your stories being told by hundreds of journalists, your deaths would only confirm everything you've said. Jack handed Sam a burner phone. This is your lifeline. Only 4 people have the number. Me, Linda, and 2 reporters who are already working on verifying your story independently. Eli collapsed on a couch, his body finally giving out. I'm so tired, not just physically. Tired of running, hiding, being scared. Jack sat across from him. I know, kid. I've been where you are, hunted by people who should protect citizens, not silence them. But you're doing the right thing. In 48 hours, maybe less, the truth starts spreading. Once that happens, you've won. It doesn't feel like winning, Eli said quietly. Everyone I loved is dead, My whole town is destroyed. Even if we expose the truth, they're not coming back. No, Jack agreed. They're not. But you can make sure their deaths meant something. You can make sure Project Genesis never happens again. That's not nothing, kid. That's everything. Time moved differently when you were hiding. Hours felt like days, minutes like hours. Eli and Sam stayed in the cabin, checking the burner phone constantly for updates. Linda sent messages. Reporter at Washington Post is interested. Wants to interview you. Dr. Patterson gave interview to CNN. Stories gaining traction. Robert's lawyer is fighting the charges. Media's starting to ask questions about his arrest. Each message was a small victory, but they still weren't safe. Jack came and went, bringing supplies and information. The containment team's getting desperate, he reported on the second day. They've increased the search radius, brought in more personnel. Someone high up is scared about what you know. Good, Sam said fiercely. They should be scared. Eli spent the time writing in his journal, documenting everything. If something happened to them, at least there would be a record. Day 49. I never imagined my life would become this. Running from the government, carrying evidence of crimes that killed my whole town. I feel like I'm in a movie, except movies have happy endings, and I don't know how this one ends. Sam read over his shoulder. It ends with the truth coming out, with justice. Does it? Eli asked. What if they catch us before the story breaks? What if they bury the evidence and call us liars? What if nobody believes us? They'll believe us, Sam said with certainty. Because we have proof. Because Dr. Patterson verified the science. Because Robert and Linda and Jack are risking everything to help us. Truth has a weight to it, Eli. It's harder to bury than lies. The burner phone rang. Both of them jumped. Jack's voice was tense. Pack up, now. They've found the cabin. Don't know how, but surveillance spotted vehicles headed your way. I'm sending coordinates to the second safe house. Move fast, stay off main roads, and ditch the car 3 blocks before you arrive. Go on foot the rest of the way. How long do we have? Sam asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15. Run. They grabbed their backpacks and fled into the night once again. Behind them, headlights appeared on the access road. The hunters were getting closer. They ditched Jack's sedan in a grocery store parking lot and ran through suburban streets. Eli's lungs burned, his legs trembled, but terror kept him moving. The second safe house was a tiny apartment above a Chinese restaurant. The smell of cooking food made Eli's stomach growl despite his fear. They slipped in through a back entrance and locked the door behind them. How did they find the cabin? Eli gasped, bent over and trying to catch his breath. They're probably tracking Jack's movements, Sam said grimly, following everyone connected to us. The burner phone rang again. Linda's voice was urgent. It's happening. Washington Post just published. Stories going viral on social media. Hashtag Project Genesis is trending. CNN wants interviews. So does BBC, Reuters, everyone. Eli felt a surge of hope. We did it? The story's out? The first wave is out. More coming as other outlets verify independently. You're becoming public figures. Dozens of news sites are using your photos from Robert's interviews. Your faces are everywhere. Does that mean we're safe? Sam asked. Linda hesitated. Safer, but not completely safe yet. The government's denying everything, calling it conspiracy theory. They'll try to discredit you, claim the documents are fake, maybe even try to paint you as disturbed kids inventing stories. You need to do interviews, go on camera, let people see you're real and credible. How? Eli asked. We can't exactly walk into a TV studio with a containment team hunting us. Jack's working on that, Linda said. He's got contacts at a local station willing to do a live interview. Once you're on camera, broadcasting to millions, they can't make you disappear without everyone knowing. It's your best protection. After she hung up, Eli and Sam sat in silence, processing everything. A live interview, Eli said quietly. Millions of people watching. That's terrifying. More terrifying than being hunted? Sam asked with a weak smile. Different kind of terrifying. Eli pulled out his journal. What do I even say? How do I explain everything that happened in a way people will understand? Sam put a hand on his shoulder. You tell the truth. You tell them about your mom trying to stop Project Genesis. About the town that died because people ignored her warnings. About surviving in the ruins and finding evidence of what really happened. You let them see you're just a kid who lost everything and wants the people responsible to be held accountable. Eli nodded slowly. My mom would have been good at this. She knew how to explain complicated science stuff so normal people understood. Then do it for her, Sam said. Speak the truth she didn't get the chance to speak. The burner phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Interview set for tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. Local station KRVD. They'll broadcast live and stream online. Every major network will pick it up. This is it. Your moment to tell the world everything. Eli's hands shook as he read the message. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. For better or worse, their story would be heard. He just had to survive one more night. They didn't sleep. How could they? Tomorrow they'd either expose one of the biggest government conspiracies in history, or they'd be caught and silenced forever. Eli sat by the window, watching the street below. Cars passed. People walked dogs. Life continued normally for everyone who didn't know the truth. Tell me about your family, Sam said from across the room. Not the sad parts, the good memories, the ones that make you smile. Eli thought for a moment. Dad had this terrible sense of humor, like really bad dad jokes. He'd make puns about everything and then laugh at his own jokes even when nobody else did. A small smile crossed Eli's face. Mom would roll her eyes, but she was always smiling too. And Mia would groan and say, Dad, that's so dumb. But then she'd giggle anyway. They sound wonderful. They were. Eli's smile faded. Mia wanted to be a veterinarian. She was always bringing home injured animals, birds with broken wings, stray cats, once even a baby raccoon. Mom said our house was turning into a zoo. My mom collected teapots, Sam said. Hundreds of them, all different designs from different countries. She'd never actually use them, just display them on shelves. Dad always said we'd get crushed if there was an earthquake and all those teapots fell. They traded stories through the night, keeping the memories of their families alive through words. It hurt to remember, but it hurt more to forget. Around 3 a.m., Sam's phone buzzed. Jack's voice was tense. We've got a problem. The station got a visit from federal agents. They're pressuring management to cancel the interview, claiming you're dangerous, possibly contaminated, might expose viewers to biological hazards. What does that mean? Eli asked, his heart sinking. It means the station's scared, but, and this is important, they agreed to do the interview remotely. You'll be in a secure location, broadcasting via video link. It's not ideal, but it keeps you safe and still gets your story out. Where? Sam asked. Linda's arranged something. She'll pick you up at 6 a.m., 2 hours before the broadcast. Be ready. After he hung up, Eli looked at Sam. This is really happening. In 5 hours, the whole world will know our story. Are you ready? Sam asked. Eli thought about his mom writing those emails, warning people, trying to save lives even when nobody listened. He thought about everyone who died in the explosion. His family, his friends, his whole town. He thought about the truth buried in classified documents, hidden away where nobody would find it. Yeah, he said firmly. I'm ready. Let's finish this. Linda picked them up in a van with tinted windows, driving through pre-dawn streets while the city still slept. She took them to the Riverdale Gazette office, the last place anyone would expect them to be. We've set up a makeshift studio in the conference room, she explained. Camera, lighting, audio equipment. You'll broadcast from here while I monitor for any incoming threats. Jack's watching the building's perimeter. The conference room had been transformed. A simple backdrop, 2 chairs, professional camera equipment that looked out of place in the small-town newspaper office. A technician helped them with microphones. You'll be on split screen with the anchors in the studio. They'll ask questions, you answer. Try to look at the camera, not at the monitor. And remember, millions of people will be watching. This is your moment to make them understand. Eli's stomach churned with nerves. Sam squeezed his hand. We've got this, Sam whispered. At 7:55 a.m., the technician counted down. Going live in 5, 4, 3. The red light on the camera turned on. On the monitor, Eli could see the news anchors in their studio. Behind them, a graphic read, "Breaking. Survivors of quarantine zones speak out." "Good morning," the female anchor said, her expression serious. "We're joined this morning by two individuals claiming to be survivors from inside the quarantine zone that's been sealed off for 7 weeks. Eli Martinez, age 14, and Sam Chen, age 18, say they have evidence of illegal government experiments that resulted in catastrophic loss of life. Eli, Sam, thank you for speaking with us." Eli's mouth was dry. His prepared words evaporated. He looked at the camera, at the millions of people watching, and suddenly realized he didn't need a script. He just needed to tell the truth. "My mom was Dr. Sarah Martinez," he began, his voice steady. "She was a scientist working on something called Project Genesis. She tried to stop it because she knew it was dangerous. Nobody listened to her, and because nobody listened, my whole town died. My mom, my dad, my 7-year-old sister, everyone I knew. All gone in an explosion caused by an experiment that never should have happened." The anchors listened, their expressions shifting from professional neutrality to genuine shock as Eli and Sam told their story. They shared documents on screen, the classified memos, the photos, the emails from Dr. Martinez warning about the dangers. Sam spoke about being a test subject, about the year of experiments, about watching their body change in ways that violated every ethical standard. "We're not conspiracists," Sam said firmly. "We're survivors, and we have proof of everything we're saying. The government sealed off the area and called it a chemical spill because they didn't want anyone to know they were experimenting on sick people. They didn't want anyone to know their experiments killed an entire town." The interview lasted 40 minutes. The anchors asked tough questions. Eli and Sam answered all of them, calmly and truthfully. When it ended, Linda was crying. That was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Social media's exploding. Hashtag Project Genesis is the #1 trend worldwide. Congress is already calling for investigations. Eli slumped in his chair, exhausted. "Is it over? Are we safe now?" Jack's voice came through the radio. "We've got company. Black SUVs surrounding the building. Looks like the containment team isn't giving up." The building was surrounded within minutes. Through the windows, Eli could see armed agents taking positions. Helicopters circled overhead. But something was different this time. News vans were arriving too. Reporters setting up cameras pointed at the building. The interview had just gone viral. Everyone knew where Eli and Sam were. Jack's voice was calm on the radio. "They're in a bad position. They came here to silence you, but now there are cameras everywhere. If they storm the building, the whole world watches. If they hurt you, it proves everything you said is true." Linda stood by the window, phone to her ear. "I'm on with CNN. They're broadcasting this live. So is BBC, AP, everyone. You two are literally the most watched people on the planet right now." An amplified voice boomed from outside. "Eli Martinez, Sam Chen. This is Special Agent Morrison with the Federal Containment Response Unit. You need to come out. You've been exposed to dangerous contamination and require immediate medical evaluation." Jack radioed back. "Don't respond. Let me handle this." He walked out the front door, hands raised but unafraid. Eli watched on a monitor as Jack approached the agents. "Agent Morrison," Jack said loudly, making sure the cameras caught every word. "We both know these kids aren't contaminated. They've been out of the zone for a week with no symptoms. This isn't about public safety. This is about covering up Project Genesis." The lead agent's jaw tightened. "Sir, step aside. We have orders." "Orders from who?" "The same people who authorized illegal human experiments. The same people who let an entire town die to hide their mistakes." Jack's voice carried across the parking lot. "Your orders are illegal. These kids have done nothing wrong except survive and tell the truth." The standoff continued. Minutes ticked by. The agents didn't advance, but they didn't leave either. Then, Eli's phone buzzed with a news alert. "Congress announces emergency hearing on Project Genesis. Attorney General orders investigation." Another alert. CDC director resigns amid Project Genesis scandal. Another. President calls for full transparency on quarantine zone incident. The truth was spreading faster than anyone could contain it, and with each headline, the agents outside looked more uncertain. Finally, the lead agent lowered his weapon. He spoke into his radio, listened, then spoke to Jack. "We're standing down, for now. But this isn't over." "Yes," Jack said quietly. "It is. You just don't know it yet." The agents left, but the reporters stayed. For 3 days, Eli and Sam lived in the newspaper office, doing interview after interview. They told their story dozens of times to dozens of outlets. Each time it got a little easier. The evidence they'd carried out of the ruins was analyzed by independent experts. Every document was verified as authentic. Every claim they'd made was proven true. 7 people were arrested, including the director of Project Genesis and the officials who'd ordered the cover-up. More arrests were expected. Congress held hearings. Scientists testified about the dangers of unregulated genetic research. Ethicists condemned the experiments. Survivors, because it turned out Eli and Sam weren't the only ones, came forward with their own stories. The quarantine zone was open to independent investigators. They found the underground facility exactly as Eli and Sam had described. They found more evidence, more documents, more proof. The truth was undeniable. On the 10th day, Robert was released from jail. All charges dropped. He walked into the Gazette office looking tired but triumphant. "We did it," he said, hugging Eli and Sam. "The story's everywhere. Project Genesis is finished. The people responsible will face justice." "It doesn't bring them back," Eli said quietly. "My family. Sam's parents. Everyone who died." "No," Robert agreed. "But it means they didn't die for nothing. Their deaths exposed a horror that would have continued if you two hadn't been brave enough to speak up. That matters, Eli. It matters more than you know." That night, Eli opened his journal and wrote, "Day 57. The nightmare is ending. Not the way I wanted. Nobody comes back from the dead. But the truth is out. Mom tried to save everyone, and even though she couldn't, her warnings are finally being heard. I hope, wherever she is, she knows that her son finished what she started." He closed the journal and looked at Sam, who was watching the news coverage with a small smile. They'd survived. Against impossible odds, they'd survived and exposed the truth. It was enough. 3 months later, Eli stood at the edge of the ruins of his hometown. A memorial was being built. A stone monument with the names of everyone who died. His mom's name was there. His dad's. Mia's. Thousands of others. Sam stood beside him, no longer glowing, looking human again without the contamination zone's radiation. They'd undergone months of medical treatment, careful monitoring to ensure the genetic modifications weren't causing harm. "They want me to testify at the trial," Eli said, staring at his family's names carved in stone. "Against the people who ran Project Genesis." "Will you?" Sam asked. "Yeah. Mom stood up to them when it mattered. I can do the same." He touched the cold stone where her name was carved. "I miss her. I miss all of them. Every single day." I know. Behind them, construction crews were working. Not just on the memorial, but on something else. A research center dedicated to ethical science, named after Dr. Sarah Martinez. A place where scientists could pursue breakthrough research with proper oversight and transparency. Something good growing from tragedy. Jack walked up to join them. He'd been appointed to lead the federal investigation into Project Genesis, using his decades of experience to ensure justice was served. "The Martinez family would be proud of you," he said to Eli. "You've handled this with more grace and courage than most adults could manage." "I had help," Eli said, looking at Sam and Jack. "I couldn't have done this alone." "Nobody does anything important alone," Jack replied. "Remember that." Martha came to visit, bringing homemade cookies and hugs. Linda brought copies of the Pulitzer Prize nomination for their reporting. Robert and Margaret invited them for dinner every Sunday. Slowly, Eli was building a new life. Not the one he'd planned, not the one he'd lost, but a life nonetheless. He was living with Jack now, in a real home with a real bed and real meals. He went to a new school where everyone knew his story. Some kids treated him like a celebrity, others avoided him. But a few became real friends. Sam was living with Dr. Patterson, the geneticist who'd verified their evidence. She was helping Sam understand their altered biology while advocating for others affected by genetic experiments. They were survivors. But more than that, they were witnesses. They'd seen evil and refused to let it hide in darkness. And that made all the difference. Eli stood at a podium in Washington, D.C., facing a room full of politicians, journalists, and cameras. He'd been invited to speak at the signing of the Genetic Research Ethics Act, new legislation inspired by Project Genesis, creating strict oversight for all human genetic research. He was 15 now, taller, older, forever changed by what he'd lived through. "A year ago, I was just a kid worried about homework and video games," he began. "Then in one day, everything I knew was destroyed. My family, my home, my whole world. Gone because people prioritized progress over safety, ambition over ethics, and secrecy over transparency." He looked out at the audience. "My mom, Dr. Sarah Martinez, tried to stop Project Genesis. She wrote emails, filed complaints, warned anyone who would listen about the dangers. But the people in power didn't want to hear it. They had deadlines and budgets and political pressure. So they ignored her warnings, and an entire town paid the price." His voice grew stronger. "This new law won't bring back the people we lost. Nothing can do that. But it can prevent another Project Genesis. It can make sure that scientists who raise safety concerns are heard instead of silenced. It can ensure that human test subjects give real informed consent instead of being treated as disposable experiments." He pulled out a photograph, his family at Christmas, all of them smiling, happy, alive. "This is what we lost. These are the people who died because of illegal experiments and government cover-ups. My mom, my dad, my baby sister. Thousands of others just like them." He set the photo on the podium, letting the cameras zoom in. "I'm standing here today to make sure they're remembered, to make sure their deaths led to change, to make sure this never happens again." The room erupted in applause. Eli stepped back from the podium as the president approached to sign the legislation into law. Sam was in the front row, clapping. So were Jack, Robert, Linda, Martha, and Margaret. All the people who'd helped them survive and expose the truth. After the ceremony, a reporter asked Eli what he planned to do next. He smiled. "I'm going to finish high school, maybe go to college, study journalism or law or science. Something where I can keep fighting for truth and accountability. My mom dedicated her life to helping people. I want to do the same." "And the nightmares?" another reporter asked. "Do they ever stop?" Eli's smile faded slightly. "No. I still hear the explosions sometimes when I close my eyes. I still dream about the ruins, about being alone and scared. But I'm learning to live with it. Trauma doesn't just disappear. You carry it, but you don't let it define you." That night, Eli sat in his room at Jack's house and opened his journal to the final page. Day 423. A year since the world ended and began again. I testified at all the trials. Everyone responsible for Project Genesis is in prison now. The victims are memorialized. The truth is known. Mom's legacy is secured. He paused, pen hovering over paper. I'm not the same kid I was before the explosion. That innocent, carefree version of Eli died with everyone else. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we're not meant to stay the same forever. Maybe tragedy teaches us that we're stronger than we think, braver than we believe, and more resilient than we imagine. Tomorrow I start at a new school. Sam's coming with me. We're in the same grade now. Jack's making pancakes for breakfast. Martha's sending cookies. Life continues, even after devastation. I'll never forget where I came from, what I survived, or who I lost. But I won't let it stop me from living. That's what Mom would want. That's what they all would want. So I'm choosing to live. Really live, not just survive. I'm choosing hope over despair, purpose over grief, and truth over silence. This is my story. The boy who built a home from ruins. The boy who answered the knock from the woods. The boy who survived when everything else was destroyed. And this is where the story transforms from tragedy into something else. Into legacy. Eli closed the journal and placed it on his shelf beside a photograph of his family. They were smiling in the picture, frozen in a moment of happiness before everything fell apart. "I did it, Mom," he whispered to the photograph. "I finished what you started. I exposed the truth. I made sure everyone knows what you tried to prevent." The house was quiet. Jack was downstairs reading. Outside, the world continued spinning, life marching forward like it always did. Eli turned off his light and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in a year, when midnight came, there was no knocking. No mysterious sounds from the woods. No warnings to heed. Just silence. Peaceful, complete silence. The nightmare was finally over. And tomorrow was a new beginning, in memory of all those who speak truth to power, who raise warnings others refuse to hear, and who sacrifice everything to protect those who come after them. May their courage never be forgotten.